name is Sparsh Gupta, and I'm a senior at Vanderbilt.
I'm Raymar, and I'm a sophomore here.
Hi, my name is Matt. I'm a sophomore from Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I feel that Asian males are viewed differently in that they're just in general more like weak.
More passive, maybe even a little more submissive.
And Asian males specifically, they think of just someone who brings intelligence to the table, and it's like they're not valued for much else except for that intelligence.
Being good at math, maybe not that great at sports, being good at computer stuff.
I cannot imagine someone saying, oh, pointing at an Asian guy and saying he's manly. Like, it's hard for me to imagine.
It's like you're a second-rate man if you're an Asian male to some extent.
I would say less masculine per se than the typical American male.
So as I was growing up, I always just felt like I was a lot smaller than everyone, and I'm not sure if that's because like I felt that personally or just because people would always like tell me that I'm just a scrawny kid. I feel like people would also say that I'm not mature at all, partially because I'm Asian, and I think it's just because I felt I took like a lesser standpoint in society just because I was Asian. That's how I felt, and because of that, I always looked at myself like I have so much growing room just because I'm way behind on the game.
When you're reading novels, you picture the characters, right? You picture them in your mind while you're reading the book, and so all I could picture was all of these like male leads were white, like only white, even though the names because it's a fantasy novel doesn't have any sort of indication as to what race or ethnicity they might come from. And so I saw myself there, and I thought about that. I wouldn't have been able to imagine an East Asian, South Asian character as the lead in this book, even though it didn't really matter.
Well, growing up, hearing these different stereotypes and kind of seeing like where I aligned with them, yeah, I was good at math and I wasn't the best at sports. Kind of made me feel like, is there something wrong with me? Am I not your typical American male? And I think that as a kid, those were definitely views that were probably harmful to my self-development.
This whole issue of the like a yellow fever has come a lot from like films, like Hollywood films.
It's typically kind of fetishizing the Asian female, whereas you don't see a lot of say non-Asian girls going for Asian males, even in the generation before us. So I've got a lot of mixed friends, and I kind of recall like going over to their houses and realizing that it was almost exclusively the dad was non-Asian and the mom was Asian, and I couldn't really at the time grasp why.
A lot of like prostitutes in movies tend to be Asian women.
It definitely plays into, so I think it stems from hypersexualizing East Asian females, but then also in doing that, it like demasculinizes East Asian males.
And it's just kind of weird to see the contrast between that and kind of like the desexualization of Asian males and how they've been made to just seem like less masculine. So I think one thing that society could do to help Asian males, especially in the film industry, is to like give them the role in which they are like the love interest, where the big person in the film is like seeking an Asian male.
But I think that for the few Asian male representations that are out there, you're either this kind of class nerd or a kung fu star, and that just doesn't really speak to the population as a whole.
Also, in like superhero movies, for example, they could make the leading role like the strong man, an Asian guy. In The Maze Runner, Min-ho was an Asian guy, and I thought that was so cool.
Looking at our own circles, though, we can definitely address that by catching stereotypes or like little biases that we have in ourselves when talking about Asian masculinity, and then addressing them and questioning why we think that's the case, or questioning and then looking into how that got there and attempting to change those sorts of thought processes of the stereotypes that demasculinize Asian males.
I just was thinking about how much it sucks and how we don't even think about it, but it's a very real issue, and it's such a real issue that even though I'm Asian, it's affected my perception of like many other people, and I just think that it's really unfair that we're judged just because of the culture that we have and like the racial background, the ethnic background that we have.
I mean, it questioned a lot of like what I thought about my own masculinity and how I defined that, and what that meant in the context of me being a South Asian male, and what that meant in terms of me being an Asian male. It's given me a lot to think about, and I haven't really come to any conclusions, but it's been cool to reflect on these questions, and I'm like definitely interested in learning more about it.
Yeah, honestly, I think that thinking about this topic obviously just does not make me feel good. From a personal standpoint, I'd like to think that change starts with me, but I just hope that society can one day kind of move towards this addressing of this demasculinization. That's just a terrible answer.